played it once already. Jesus. Tablet's got a mind of its own. Come on, get over there. Broadcasting from a beautiful 62-degree downtown Cleveland, it's station WDWL TV, home of not one, but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I'm your host, the grumpy old man, the grumpy jackalope, flew the coop. I don't know where the hell he went. So, he's not here. Oh, Jesus, asshole. Yeah, we're brought to you by Grumpy Vulture Productions. The hell happened here? A little short wire here. Come on. Jesus. The guys were working in the studio today. They adjusted some cables and kind of shortened my headset wire. So, how we doing tonight, Kathy? I have to show you a little gift my buddy dropped off. Matter of fact, I didn't even know he followed the show. And I don't know where he was. I think Five Below, but I'm not sure. And he picked me up some glasses that he said needs to go with Bro Grumpy. Yo. He said Bro Grumpy would look good in these sunglasses. I think they're the stupidest looking things on earth, but I'll try it the next time Bro Grumpy guest hosts. Jesus. Could they afford to make the lenses a little bigger? I don't know. I don't know where he got them. We'll try them the next time we bring in Bro Grumpy to host the show. I didn't think he followed me. I really didn't. Because when I told him I had a YouTube show, he was like, "Oh, that's for kids. Grow up." I said, "Kids?" I says, "You know how many adults are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year off of YouTube for kids?" I know a guy. I can't remember his auto something. He does auto car reviews. And he does some stupid shit like he had a Ranger pickup truck, which, I wanted. I even wrote him. I said, don't destroy that truck. Well, in one segment, he poured sugar in the gas tank, which did nothing. Then in another segment, he poured a bottle of wine in the gas tank, which did nothing. Then, I think he was doing 40 miles an hour, he jammed the truck into reverse. And it literally shattered the transmission, the drive shaft come out. I wanted that. Matter of fact, I had my Ranger at the time, and it needed a clutch. and I offered to trade him. I said, it's got enough clutch for me to get it to Pennsylvania. I'll trade you. No. He took this perfectly nice Ranger and destroyed it. Getting back to him. And he is very transparent. He literally showed the checks that he got from YouTube. He went out and I don't know if you ever heard of the dealership. It's over on the east side. Marshall Goldman Motors. Marshall Goldman handles exotics. And he bought a 2 or 3 year old Ferrari. And made the payments on this Ferrari off the money he was making off of YouTube. Now, YouTube is his full-time job. So he's paying a mortgage. He was paying payments on a Ford Raptor that he bought for his wife. I mean, normal, he's paying all the household, plus financing a Ferrari. Not too many people have heard about Marshall Goldman because, like I say, he handles exotics, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Maseratis, very high-end. I mean, you're not going to go into Marshall Goldman and buy a 2001 Passat. But this guy lives in Pennsylvania, came to PA, and bought this, it was a 2 or 3 year old Ferrari. And the payments on the Ferrari were like almost $3,000 a month. And he was able not only to make the payments on the Ferrari, make the payments on the Ford Raptor, and run a household. Now, his wife did work, but he was showing his monthly checks from YouTube. And I could not believe the money that he was making. And he, like he said from the beginning, I'm going to be 100% transparent. And he literally every month would show a check. And 1 month, he made like $14,000. So in a way, I could understand why some people do this for a living, to make that kind of money. But first of all, you've got to put up content constantly. It's got to be interesting content. And it's got to be content that is going to hold subscribers. Somebody like Van Balen, he has content every single day. Old Squishy Gardner, he follows court cases. Sometimes he'll have 2 or 3 different pieces of content in one day. Kfar does a daily, sometime twice a day content. there is good money to be made off of YouTube. Very good money. But first of all, you've got to have, like, I think in order to be monetized, you have to have a minimum of 10,000 subscribers. And of course, the more subscribers, you know, it just goes up from there. Plus, a lot of content creators will do shorts, because a lot of time people don't want to watch a whole YouTube video. They'll watch your shorts, or they'll steal your shorts or wash your shorts or something. I'm not going to put that much work into this channel, which is obvious because I can't even get over 125 subscribers, little over 125,000. But there is good money out there. And this guy, I'm going to have to look through my saved, I can't remember auto something. But he's very transparent. I mean, he not only shows his checks, he goes right down the line and shows, okay, this video, you know, got 2 million views where this video only got 10,000, and this, I mean, he puts everything up. And he's probably, matter of fact, he's the only YouTube creator that's that transparent, because most of your YouTube creators won't say what they're earning. But if you can afford to finance a Ferrari, you're making good money. I will never, ever get even close to being able to monetize. Not to mention, I don't want to be filing with the IRS. I haven't had to file with the IRS for a godzillion years. Matter of fact, as soon as I went on disability, matter of fact, my caseworker told me, she said, besides, you know, getting a monthly check, there is one big benefit. I said, what's that? She goes, you're done filing taxes. Never again. Unless, like, I would get a part-time job. Like flipping burgers at McDonald's or something. Not. Okay, but every now and then my buddy up in Mass watches. Nothing against flipping burgers, buddy. Nothing against it. It's not for me. I don't want to attend Burger College or anything else. You did a hell of a job. I'm proud to be your buddy, but you're not going to see me with a spatula in my hand unless it's in my own kitchen. Oh, this has been all over the internet today. And this made worldwide news because I remember it being on national news TV, NBC, CBS, Walter Cronkite, A prisoner over in Her Majesty's or His Majesty's prison, maximum security on top of it, by the name of Ian Huntley, was killed in prison this week. He has been a target ever since he entered prison. Several years ago, he had his throat slashed. The guy didn't succeed in killing him. He's been beaten. Well, this week, another prisoner succeeded in beating him to the point where he was on life support, and his mother said, pull the plug. Now, most people have no idea who Ian Huntley is. In 2002, he murdered two 10-year-old girls. And he basically was interviewed by the BBC and Sky News, and he was like, they were walking by. I was the last person to probably see them, and they went right down the road, and, well, they didn't go down the road. He lured them into his house, and gave them both dirt naps. And then he took the bodies about 10, 15 miles from his house in a very desolate area and set them on fire. Now, they didn't burn enough. Unfortunately for Ian Huntley, this was a game preserve for some bird, woodcocks or something. And it was the monthly time for the gamekeeper of this game preserve to go out and count woodcocks. And as he was going down this one road, there was this odor. And he went back into the woods and, he discovered the bodies. So Ian Huntley, who had been giving interviews all week, was immediately arrested. When they went to search his house, during that week, he had literally scrubbed that house stem to stern with every disinfectant on earth. And his girlfriend at the time couldn't understand why he was on this cleaning spree. Needless to say, he did divulge to her And then, as the English term it, she perverted the course of justice by providing him with an alibi. Ian was sentenced. Now, over in England, they give you a life sentence. It ain't life. He got a life sentence of 40 years. Unfortunately, Ian ain't coming up for parole, although he got the dirt box parole. Yeah, he got killed this week in prison. There are several YouTube videos on it, and if you want to look it up, Kathy, just look up Ian Huntley or Holly Wells or Jessica Chapman, murder 2002, Soham, Hoham, Soham, England. Matter of fact, 4 years ago, they did a documentary, a 20-year, on the anniversary, the 20th anniversary of the murders. Here's two 10-year-old girls that were basically, they had left a family barbecue to go get some sweets at the local sweet shop. And how Ian lured them into the house, that never really came out. But, yeah, he's been a target in prison ever since he entered. And finally, this one, I can't remember the guy's name, was successful in giving Ian an old dirt nap. But it made national news. I vaguely remembered it when I watched the one YouTube video, and I was like, oh, shit, I remember that being on the news, because it was on U.S. World News. And usually we don't hear about shit like that from over across the pond, but with this being two 10-year-old girls that were originally missing, it made world news. And then once it did make world news, the stations over here followed it up until the trial when he got convicted. But that was the big news across the internet today. Because his girlfriend got, I think, 5 years for perverting the course of justice. That's what they call, I can't remember what we call it here, interfering with an investigation, or I don't know what the legal term is here, but over in England it's perverting the course of justice, because she provided him with a phony alibi. And then after a while, the old alibi fell apart. Because idiots don't realize, and especially Britain with their technology, they tracked him via his cell phone. But he knew the roads around this game preserve didn't have cameras. And that was why he dumped the bodies out there. But it was really cool because they impounded his car. And they brought in, I can't remember the term. This woman studies plants and dirt. And they took some scrapings from the because he washed the shit out of his car. Unfortunately, he didn't wash the underside. And they took some scrapings of the mud. And they called in this plantologist. I can't remember the term. And from these little scrapings of dirt, oh man, this woman literally pinpointed where this dirt came from. And she went into, in prehistoric days, these seeds got preserved, and then, with the earth movement, they got crushed, and, I can't remember, it's a big, long, fancy term, but she studied plants and dirt. Obstruction, that's it, yeah. Yeah, obstruction, we call it obstruction, and over there it's perverting the course of justice. We speak the same language. You would think that we would have like the same police terms, but no. No, it was some no. I can't, it's a big fancy, I might have to watch, now that, Ian got killed, they'll be rerunning the videos to find out what the title was for this woman. But it was amazing because she gave testimony for like 2 weeks explaining the dirt and the seeds and this and that, and I was like, of all things to study in college, you study dirt and seeds and plants and bugs, not bugs. It was amazing. They played some of the testimony, and the jury was like, they were in awe. So was I. And, how the English are very prim and proper, It was, listening to her testimony was just, although listening to any court testimony in Britain is a riot. Because, first of all, the barristers are so formal, and, they got the frickin' wigs on, and the judge is so formal, and not like our courts here, Although, I can't remember if it's the House of Commons or the House of Lords. One of the, they get wild. There was a clip on YouTube, and it was this guy's turn to speak, and, the floor goes to Lord Phillips, Lord Phillips stands up and goes, I would like to say that Lord Williamson is an asshole. And everybody's like, hey, here, hum, rum. And then Lord Phillips gets up and goes, well, my esteemed colleague is a dickhead. Hey, well, not a dickhead, a wanker. My esteemed colleague is a wanker. That's their term for the lower region. It's almost mandatory that you insult your colleagues. It's a riot watching. I can't remember if it's the House of Commons or the House of Lords. If somebody says something, negative, my Lord Jones is a wanker. And then everybody's like, hum. It's hilarious to watch. I would like to see that in either the Senate or the House, Although, watching, I don't even know if C-SPAN's still around. I used to watch C-SPAN. It used to be boring as shit. Watching some of these hearings, Watch some of the stuff over in England. Whoa. Hilarious. I think it must be the House of Lords because everything was Lord this and Lord that, Lord McPhillips III is a wanker. And then Lord Phillips stands up and goes, well, Lord McBatten, you are a double wanker. But it's like normal. I guess, like, if you don't insult one of your colleagues, you're a wanker. I don't know. Salute. Oh, that shit doesn't get any better. Or you would think, I've been drinking this shit for a month. You would think after a while I would be desensitized. Then I was watching a court case today. And this kid had been in 3 pursuits in stolen cars with stolen guns in a year. 3 pursuits in a year. All stolen cars. Each one of them, he had a stolen gun. He's a felon who shouldn't have a gun. All before the age of 19. And it came out in court. And the judge asked him, why he can't just pull over and take his lumps, Well, like he said, with a lot of the police departments, if you get over a certain speed and you start to drive reckless, they halt the pursuits and you literally get away. And he said, that's what I do. And he said, if you really want to see a pursuit stopped, he said, drive on the other side of the road into oncoming traffic. Police will back off in a heartbeat. I said, here's your criminals today. They steal a vehicle. They don't want to get arrested. So they take the police on a pursuit, knowing that when they reach a certain speed, the police will be ordered to end the pursuit. And then they get away. And this kid did this 3 times. Finally, he went to jail. First 2 times, he got the old slap on the hand. Probation. Like they follow probation. And these are court cases across the United States. I'm not picking on a certain area. Raise your right hand. Your other right. Oh. I don't know how many times I saw that today in court videos. Raise your right hand. Your other right. You know, from 3 years old, you're taught which is right and which is left. If you have to write R and L on the back of your hand. Here's adults. The judge, raise your right hand. Your other right. Oh. I don't know how many times I heard that today. Raise your right hand. Your other right. Oh. I knew my right and left hand when I was 3.5 years old. Right. Left. Raise your right hand. Automatically, I know which hand. This one. Raise your right hand. Your other right. Oh. Stupid. And this goes from teenagers up to, I think the one guy was 70-some years old. He's standing in front of the judge in handcuffs. Whatever best way you can, raise your right hand. Your other right. Although they deserve to be in jail. They deserve to be in prison. If you don't know your right from your left. I mean, I don't have to think twice. Raise your right hand. Although there was one today was hilarious. The judge was, raise your right hand. Raise the hand you write with. Okay, raise the hand you don't write with. The guy was a lefty. Raise the hand you write with. Okay, raise the other hand that you don't write with. Oh, okay. Stop. There's no words for it. There's no words for how stupid people are. Although there was a good one today. I saw this one I was almost late. This guy is offered, and I can't remember the crime that he committed, but the prosecutor offered him 3 years in jail and followed by 3 years of probation. And he turned it down. In court, in front of the judge, turned it down. Judge said, okay, we'll set this for trial. I can't remember the YouTuber. He did a follow-up. Matter of fact, I like the guy because he does a lot of follow-ups on cases. So the guy takes it to trial. Very secure in his feelings that he's going to beat this. And they basically had said during the trial that he was offered a 3-year deal with 3 years probation that he turned down. Goes to trial, jury. Jury finds him guilty, and they give him 20 years. He turned down a 3-year deal, took his chance at trial. The jury finds him guilty, and then in the penalty phase, they gave him 20 years. And he says to his attorney, I should have taken the plea deal. And the attorney went, yeah, well, I told you. My kind of justice. Because when they found him guilty, of course, they polled the jury. And it was unanimous. Each juror, yep, that's my verdict. Yep, that's my verdict. Well, then when it came to the penalty phase and they gave him 20 years, he demanded the jury be polled. So the judge started, juror 1, is this your decision? Yes. Juror 12, yes. What more do you want, buddy? All 12 found you guilty. All 12 agreed on 20 years. I could guarantee he appealed it. Then I could guarantee the appeals court either turned it down or didn't want to hear it. Go! You're not supposed to spark. That hurt. Yeah, when I saw that Ian Huntley, I watched every news story because you got a BBC, and then you have Sky News, And then there's it starts with an I. IAN News or something. ISA News or it's an independent. Just to get their, each news reporter's take on and what they would play, and of course all of them played the interview that he did where he screwed himself when he went, I probably was the last one to see them alive because when they left my driveway, they walked down the road that way. Nothing like drawing attention to yourself. But I'll tell you what, he was a news hound. Anybody that wanted to do an interview, he was there. He was up for it. And I never saw a guy that could lie with a straight face like him. Because the one news reporter said, well, if you were the last one to see him, how do we know that you didn't do something with them? And he was like, me? I'm the caretaker for the school. I would never even think of something like that. Yeah, he was the caretaker for the school on top of it. And 10-year-old girls. Talk about a sick bastard. And then to off them both. And he wouldn't answer, during the police interview, how he managed to do them both in his house. Both girls had cell phones. How he managed to kill both of them. They never did get an answer. Because I would guarantee if one of the girls saw something happening to her best friend, she'd have been dialing 999 in a hurry. Unless he snatched their cell phones from them. He refused to answer on that. They brought in cadaver dogs and the dogs didn't hit on anything because the house was so clean. And his girlfriend finally admitted that he first cleaned the whole house with antiseptic, disinfectant, and then he followed it up by using gallons of bleach. Because the one police detective, either police detective or forensic investigator said that they had never, ever been in a house that was so spotlessly cleaned. There wasn't a crumb in the microwave. Yeah, it was a forensic, one of the forensic investigators said the house was absolutely spotless. He even scrubbed the furniture. I mean, washed the drapes, everything. And his girlfriend couldn't figure it out until he was like, oh, I did something bad. What tripped him up, and even the police investigator said, you know, because he was basically, well, how did you finally determine, he did not thoroughly empty the vacuum cleaner. And they found 2 or 3 of the girl's hairs wrapped around the vacuum brush. That's the only way they were able to prove that the girls were even in the house. Because it was a bagless, and I mean, the vacuum cleaner was spotless, except he never cleaned the brush. And they said, had you cleaned the brush, we wouldn't have been able to prove the girls were in the house. And the one investigator said it was a crappy $30 vacuum cleaner. Why didn't you just throw it away? Of course, after they found the hair in the vacuum cleaner, they searched the storeroom or the shed or whatever the hell it was, the garage where everything was kept for the school. The lawnmower, or the mop buckets, trash bags, you name it. And in the bottom of the one barrel, instead of him getting rid of everything, when he took the girls out in that game preserve, their clothing, he attempted to burn it in an incinerator behind the building. And then he cleaned out the incinerator, and there were particles left of the T-shirts that they were wearing because they were Manchester United football T-shirts, and they were in the bottom of a barrel. So they found burned particles of their T-shirts. But had they not found the hairs, they'd have never searched the school building. Because the one investigator said when they found the hairs, they said, well, there's got to be evidence somewhere else. And they searched the school building, and then in the bottom of a barrel were pieces of the burned clothing that he should have disposed of, the idiot. Of course, he didn't think they'd be searching every barrel in the building. But that was basically how they knew that at least one of the girls was in the house. And it was a whim, because the house was so spotless. He even bleached the mops and the mop buckets so that there was no evidence. And the forensic investigators were getting ready to leave, and she happened to look in the cupboard, and she pulled a vacuum cleaner out, and she opened the dirt bucket, and it was smelled like bleach and disinfectant. And then she put it down and she walked away, and then she picked it back up and turned it over. And she looked, and they took it back to the lab, and they extracted the 3 blonde hairs. And one of the hairs still had a root on it. So they were able to get DNA from the hair root. And it was from one of the and then after the trial was over, they demolished the house. And they built a park. Remembrance park to the 2 girls, because they said basically, first of all, nobody ever want to rent that house, and second of all, with it being a crime scene and people would be coming to take pictures and all kinds of shit, they just tore it down and they built a memory garden. Not to mention the house was owned by the school and it was on school property. But it was quite interesting. I watched every video. There were several. And then they did the 20-year anniversary, and I watched that one. And then I was scrolling through videos to watch, and I see this Ian Huntley dead. And I remembered the name. And out of three or four times there were attempts on his life, this one finished him because the guy beat him over the head so many times because he was on life support, and the doctor said that basically he would need long-term hospital care because he would never come out of it. So when they said that there was like zero brain activity after 3 or 4 days, his mother went, pull the plug. But if you got some spare time, look it up and watch some of the original videos. Very interesting. Because for the week or 10 days, they had search crews. Yeah, thousands of people turned out to search, and even Huntley was searching, Of course, he wasn't searching in the area, 10 miles away. And then when they, looked into his background, he had had several cases of domestic violence in other towns. He'd in trouble, and then he'd move to another town. He'd get in trouble there, move to another town. He got caught with an underage girl. They said, like, the school didn't really do a background check. Because they asked the school, how could you hire somebody with a background like this? And they were like, we didn't think of doing a background check. He come in, and because his wife was a teacher's aide in the school, or a school aide of some sort. So, his wife was like, my husband needs a job. And they said, well, we need a caretaker. You think you could handle it? Oh, yeah. And then they hired him. Of course, at the time, the police databases weren't linked, which this case basically, they made some sweeping changes where every police department, database was linked to a, like NCIC or CODIS, You would think as advanced as they were, they would have had a CODIS system like ours ahead of us. They didn't think of it, I guess, until this happened. And another thing that they do over there that we don't do here, anybody that gets arrested, they do a DNA swab. Not like here, where you commit murder and then they're like, okay, we're going to take your DNA. You get arrested for drunk driving, they take your DNA. You get arrested for speeding, they take your DNA. Just about everybody over there is in their database. You don't have to commit murder in order to get your DNA taken. They arrest you for speeding. You immediately, when you're booked, you have to get a DNA swab. And that way, that's why they solve a lot of their murder cases early. Because all they do is submit your DNA to the national database, and we should do that here. Of course, everybody be protesting, it's against their rights. Well, if they can do it over there, we do it over here. I'll tell you what, over in Britain, they have very few cold cases. Very few. The only cold cases they really have are the ones that were pre-2002. And even then, they don't have that many. Of course, the way they investigate over there is unbelievable. I mean, their forensic teams will spend days in a house. You know, if like a murder's committed in the house, they'll spend days. As a matter of fact, they have a rule over there that until the forensic investigators are basically through with their work, the coroner can't touch the body. Because the one, oh, what was that series I was watching? Killer in My Village. The one segment I watched, the body was in the house for like a day and a half before they would allow the coroner to come in and remove it, because the forensic team wasn't done. Yeah, right. If you got arrested for speeding and knew that they were going to do a DNA swab, people wouldn't be committing the crimes that they commit. Because over there, they don't have to get, a search warrant and a court order. It's automatic. You're arrested, you submit a DNA, and if they don't, then they get a court order. But it's part of the booking process. Okay, we're going to take your photo, click. We're going to take your fingerprints, brr, DNA time. Although they got a goofy legal system over there. Just about everybody gets released. They say released on bail. But there's no bondsman. I don't know how their system works. A person gets released on bail unless they put the money up themselves. I don't know. But they don't have bail bondsmen over there like we have. It must be like a PR bond for everybody. You just sign a piece of paper. Yep, I'll be back for court. Because watching some of those cases on that Killer in My Village, well, he was interviewed as a possible person of interest, and he was released on bail. But you don't see bail bondsmen. I guess they don't believe in them. Not like here, up and down the streets around the courthouse. Well, not so much now. I remember back when I was working downtown for the county, there were bail bondsmen's office all over the place. Because I remember there were two huge bail bond agencies. One was Shuri, Don Shuri Bail Bonds, and then there was Oh, he was hilarious, a black guy. Sonny Wilcox. Wilcox bail bonds. And, of course, the Jim Croce song was out years later. But Sonny had a custom Continental. And it was painted lavender. And on the back, where it said Lincoln Continental, his said Sonny's Continental. And Sonny looked like the typical pimp. He'd come in with the fur coat, with the red fedora with a feather sticking out of it, and gold jewelry enough to weigh his hands down, and a big-ass gold watch. And then Sonny ended up getting in trouble and ended up getting arrested and losing his bail bond agency and ended up with a lot of the prisoners he had bailed out. Oh, Sonny, oh. Because those were the days with the platform shoes, and Sonny had platform spats. But he had the big fur coat and a red fedora that had a feather out of it. And a lavender Lincoln Continental. And Sonny was a trip. Oh, he was a trip. He was hilarious. But boy, I'll tell you what, he made a showing when he walked into the clerk's office to write a bail bond. That big fur coat, red fedora, and I mean blood red, and it always had a big feather out of it. Because I'll never forget the first time I saw him. I asked one of my coworkers, I said, who is that? He looks like a pimp. And he said, oh, he's Sonny Wilcox. Okay, who's Sonny Wilcox? Well, he owns Sonny's bail bonds, or Wilcox bail bonds. And then he told me, he said, go take a look out front. His car's parked out there. I look out the window, and here's this lavender Lincoln Continental. And I mean lavender. And then I walked out to take a closer look, and on the trunk, where the Continental wheel was, instead of Lincoln Continental, Sonny's Continental. That car had big look gangster walls on it. Like something you'd see from the cars of the 30s. The big monster. There was no black tire. It was all white wall. And then Sonny got himself arrested for a pretty serious crime and lost everything. I always wondered where his Lincoln ended up. Who got the lavender Lincoln Continental, or the lavender Sonny's Continental? And then Don Shuri from Shuri Bail Bonds, he had a, oh God, what was Auburn Speedster. He bought it from some museum. An Auburn boat tail speedster. It was like a 30s vintage. Oh, it was a gorgeous car. Two-seater. Had that boat tail back end on it. Because during the summer, he would drive it down to the courthouse if he had to write a bail bond, you know. And I had found out that he bought it from some museum out west, Nevada, could be Las Vegas. The museum was turning over certain vehicles, and he wanted this Auburn, and he paid an ungodly price for it. Because it was a riot when the two of them would show up at the courthouse. You'd see Sonny's Lavender Continental, and then you would see Don Shuri's brown and yellow two-tone Auburn Speedster parked behind it. I wonder whatever happened to that car. One of his kids probably got it. Because Shuri Bail Bonds is still in business, so his kids are running the business. I just wonder if they still got that cool-looking Auburn. It looked like a car show out front. Sonny's Lavender Continental and Don's two-tone brown and yellow Auburn boat tail speedster. And boy, I'll tell you what, Don Shuri's wife was dripping in diamonds. She'd come in with him just dripping in diamonds. And designer clothes. What a group. But back in the day, there were bail bond offices all over downtown. All over downtown. And they all advertise, 24 hours, call us. God, one bondsman, what the hell was his? If you're in jail, call us to make bail. I can't remember the name of the bondman. He had billboards all over downtown. If you're in jail, call us to make bail. He wasn't as big as Shuri and Sonny. But boy, he had billboards all over the place. Matter of fact, his phone number was like 623 bail. And that was because they had the number, whatever, BAIL, and then underneath the numbers was the BAIL, 623 bail. Because I think Sonny's number was SONY, which was Sony, but yeah, call 623 Sonny. But boy, them platform spats that Sonny used to wear. And he had them in every color. Black and white, blue and white, brown and white, red and white, green and white, whatever color suit he was wearing, he had matching platform spats. And man, did he wear some, he come in one day, looked like a leprechaun. Green suit, green and white shoes, green shirt, green tie, with that red fedora. Looked like a traffic light. Yeah, Sonny had some clothes. Custom tailored 3-piece suits with spats to match. I'll never forget the day he come in the red suit. He had red and white shoes. I was like, holy shit. It was like a circus sideshow. Because before Sonny would come in, his bodyguards would come in. You'd see him come in, they'd look around. Sonny'd come strutting in, that fedora with the big feather, that big fur coat. Oh man, those were the days downtown. Unbelievable. You had to be there. Of all times not to have a camera. Boy, what I wouldn't have given to have a camera take a picture of Sonny. And Sonny had one of them wandering eyes. He'd be looking at you, and the one I'd be going, Sonny, with all your money, can't you get that fixed? Are you looking at me, or are you looking over there, Sonny? The only thing he didn't have was the gold teeth. I don't know if that wasn't the craze back then. But boy, could he dress. And always had spats. Always. Whatever color suit, he had shoes to match. Platform. God, them platform shoes must have been 3-4 inches. I don't know how he walked in them things. You'd hear him coming down the hall. Clomp, 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 clomp. Sonny's coming. That fur coat had to cost him 30 grand. I don't know what it was made of. White fur. A polar bear, maybe. I don't know. That white fur coat. With a red fedora, with a big feather. And then Don and his wife would come in, and people had to hold her up from the goddamn diamonds she was dripping. Oh, man. Diamond necklace, big diamond earrings, diamonds on each finger. I'm surprised she never got mugged. Now, Don was a sharp dresser, but he wasn't as outlandish. But his wife, if that woman ever walked down to the edge of the lake and tripped and fell off the dock, she drowned from all them rocks that were on her. And think nothing of it, you know. Big diamonds on every finger. About 3,000 on a necklace around her neck. Big, huge diamond earrings. And she had a gold-plated pen. A gold-plated pen. She'd pull that fancy pen out of her purse. Make sure everybody saw it. You know. Must be nice to have money. Those were the days. Hey, you're right on time. I thought for sure with the time change, the walking belly would evidently, well, he knows showtime. I'm sure your belly alarm went off a lot sooner. I know you're starving. Oh, yeah, I got you delectables today. Gravy. I have to alternate. One time I have to get broth. And then we had stew. And now this box is gravy. Here you are. You're going to cause static electricity, and I'm going to touch your nose, and then your hair is going to stand up. All right, I'll feed you. Let's do the sign-off with the fancy glasses. I got to find out where he bought these. These are the goofiest looking things. Yeah, there we go. Bro Grumpy. And he got them in my favorite color, green. All right. It's been a fun show. Oh, boy, do I look stupid in these things? All right. We will meet again right here, WDWL TV, the home of not one but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And we will see you again tomorrow night. Take care. See ya. And then we got to do a second see ya for OBS. See ya.